Meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, pledge allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. We have a long agenda this evening. First, we have 4 approval of minutes. The first goes back to February 26th of 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 26, 2019.
I'll second.
I have a motion and I have a second.
Mr. Chairman, just in the interest of consistency,
Yes.
I was chair at that time. It doesn't note that.
Well, actually, I'll revise my motion with that edit, that change, please.
Thank you
We
for-
have that correction, please. So we have a motion as corrected, and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is May the 28th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of consistency and accuracy, I have a medical degree.
Yes, you do.
Okay, it's not noted on I have a PhD. I do have a PhD, but I am a doctor. Otherwise, I can't sign these.
So,
That's correct. He is a physician and a doctor.
Yeah, so otherwise, I can't sign these, so we got to change that.
Mary Beth
I was
wasn't
not
present, so
present.
I'll make the motion with that modification to approve the minutes.
Do we have that correction, please? It should say MD, PhD. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, no, a second. You're making a second.
Did you second? You seconded?
I absolutely did.
Okay. So now, we are now at June the 25th.
Mr. Chair, same, in the interest of consistency and accuracy, same comment.
I'll make a motion to approve with the correction.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of June the 25th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
And I have, so it's a 3-0-1. We have 1 abstention. And the last, the minutes for July the 23rd.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of accuracy and consistency, the same.
And actually, for this one, Mr. Chairman,
Present.
we're going to need to continue this to next meeting. We don't have a quorum to vote on this mini minute.
Because you were
I
out.
wasn't
Libby-
present and you weren't
Lib-
either, Ed.
Libby, Mary Beth, and Libby's out, so it's just you and I.
So we will continue that. So do I need a motion to continue?
Actually, we
that?
can't motion it, but we just
No,
have
we
to
can't
continue.
do that. So
Yeah, we'll just
just continue
put it on
that.
the next agenda.
Thank you very much. All right.
That was a cleanup.
That was- Citizens' time. Is there anybody here who is not on the agenda who would like to speak with the board? Please note there was none. Citizens' time. Chairman's report. I have a couple things. First, I have to thank David McSweeney, who chaired our last meeting while I was in the Holy Land. I've got to tell you that if you've never been to that part of the world, it is magnificent. From the Stations of the Cross to the Wailing Wall to the Dome of the Rock, it's all there. It's magnificent, to just name a few sites. You should try to get there sometime in your life. Thank
It's
you
like the
very much.
Dead Sea here, we barely floated.
Barely floated, thank you. Also, I wanted to thank David for last week, a marathon subcommittee meeting on development. You stayed here so long, thank you so much. Also, we've all received, and I had a copy made for you again, because we've all received it in email. It's a new policy for remote participation to meetings that was approved by the Board of Selectmen. There will be a training program and then a presentation to this board along with the criteria that we decide to place within this policy if we approve it. And I would like a volunteer to serve along with myself to go to the meetings and hear about this and report back to the board. Is there anybody?
I'll go with you, Ed.
Thank you very much. Would you please note that Mary Beth is going to go with me? Very interesting, and we have to set criteria. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, even if this, this proposal is ratified, do we still have the option of deciding whether or not we're going to follow it?
Yes, that's what, we will go to the meeting. We'll discuss the criteria, the subcommittee, this criteria of how will we present it, because as you see here, personal illness, personal disability, emergency, what is an emergency, military service, and geographic distance, what is that, are the criteria that's placed within this draft policy. Will come before this board, and then we will decide whether we want to adopt it or not. And last, we all turned on BCAT last Friday, and we noticed that we have a star. Marlene Johnson, our health agent, meet the town employees. You were magnificent. I don't want to wait for your report. You were magnificent, and you did us proud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I agree. Sorry.
No, sure. Subcommittee reports. We're going to wait till we get to those applications. So the first application we have for this evening is 1 to 3 Great Meadow Road.
Before we get started with their presentation, a couple of things. On the proposed conditions for this, number 7D is a typo, so I'd like number 7D to be removed. And I gave you a packet that has Weston and Sampson cover letter.
Yes.
And at the back of that, there's a proposed new condition that came about after the board book was published, because we got some additional soil sample results in. So I propose to add a condition regarding the hotspot that was found, and you can see that language at the back of that Weston and Sampson package. And I've given it to the applicant tonight for review as well. So those are my two updates on 1 to 3 Great Meadow Road.
And that was 7A that you're removing?
7D.
7D.
As in dog.
Okay.
And then the other proposal is to add the condition about the hotspot, and the recording clerk has a copy, as does the applicant.
Thank you very much.
And with that, I'll let the,
Please.
Yeah, my name is Tom Hayes, I'm the town engineer, and we're very excited to be here. This is a long time coming. I've been with the town almost 20 years, and this was talked about 20 years ago, and we've been actively pursuing this project for the last 10. So here we are tonight, 1 Great Meadow, 10 Great Meadow, the DPW recreation facility. We're in the final stages, we're ready to bid. This is our last really big public hearing. Been to the Conservation Commission, very positive. They had some adjustments to the project, we made those, we're very happy. Planning board went very well, so this is it, we're right there. So with that, we have a brief presentation, if you'd like, we can give you a quick
Please.
PowerPoint. This is Jeff Alberti with Weston and Sampson, he's our design consultant. Also, this is Anthony Westphal, he's also with Weston and Sampson, he's here to make the presentation.
Okay, thank you. I know you have a extended or lengthy agenda, so I'll try to go through this quickly. If there's something that you'd like me to stop on to discuss, please stop me at any time, but I'll try to move through this expeditiously.
Excuse me, one
Sure.
second. Do you want him to do both presentations since they're, I'll do the first and we'll.
I think let's take them one at a time since they are separate premises.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start with the 1-3, 1 through 3 Great Meadow Road. But just to kind of orientate the overall project, this is an aerial view. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the site, but for those that aren't, you can see 128 in the bottom, Route 3, Middlesex Turnpike, and the 2 sites that we have is 10 Great Meadow Road, which we'll talk about next, and then 1-3 Great Meadow Road, which is the existing DPW facility. So if you zoom in on that site, again, looking at the 2 sites, and we'll focus in on the bottom right on 1-3 Great Meadow Road. So for this site, this is a survey of the site showing the existing facilities. They're shaded in the orangish beige color for what exists there today. And this shows the limited disturbance pavement and disturbed areas around the site that's currently used by the Public Works operations, both the main site shown on the bottom and then parking across the street. One of the items that we noted through this process was really to get an understanding of how we can make improvements, focusing in on the stormwater. This shows how the stormwater currently flows across the site. It's really untreated sheet flow stormwater right off into the wetlands. And through that process, we went out and just took some videos just to show you during a rainstorm. You can see from where we're standing in the red arrow, there's your sheet flow right off of the site untreated. So this project, not only will it benefit the public works from an operational perspective, but it really gives us an opportunity to capture, treat, and properly manage that stormwater. Through the process, we've also been out and we've done some recent field investigations. This shows general locations around the site. And just as a side note, we did identify a hotspot area, which was just discussed a moment ago as one of your conditions, and we can get into more detail if necessary. So the proposed development plan that we've gone through many iterations really involves taking the existing site, demolishing the existing structures that really have no beneficial use based on their age and their condition. From there, we'll remove the existing surfaces, the existing travel surfaces, really giving us a nice blank slate for a site. If this is the proposed development plan, you can see it's a much more organized, consolidated facility, which will definitely serve the needs for many, many years. Through the process of looking at the building itself, just to give you a very quick view of the interior of the building, this shows you the floor plan. It's approximately 37,000 square feet. The area shown in blue that's in the center represents the office and employee facility areas. The area to the left, the smaller piece on the left, that's the general shop areas, and then the larger area below is the vehicle and equipment storage area. Now, one of the benefits of that larger vehicle and equipment storage area is if you go out to those sites now as part of the stormwater management, any trucks that are parked outside, which unfortunately there's a lot because the building is so small now, any drips, spills, leaks from those trucks will enter the stormwater system. Under the proposed development, we'll have this equipment indoors. Any drips, any leaks, any runoff from those vehicles goes into the sanitary sewer system, not into the stormwater system. So that's a great improvement for the site. For the stormwater system, what we're proposing to do really is your basic standards to meet Mass DEP stormwater standards, starting with deep sump hooded catch basins. Those are shown by the blue squares around the site. We've also included hydrodynamic separators so we can treat the suspended solids, capture any floatable hydrocarbons or anything that might be in that stormwater runoff. And then from there, we're going through an underground chamber with an isolation row. This is really a storage chamber just to slow the rate of runoff, and it is lined and there'll be no infiltration based on the historic contamination on the site. And those are shown in red around the perimeter of the site. We've gone through and done our stormwater calculations to ensure that we have peak rate attenuation, and as outlined here, our post-development flows are less than our pre-development flows. So again, no negative impact to the surrounding area. In fact, there'll be a much greater improvement because we'll be able to treat and control that runoff. In summary, the stormwater improvements include the elimination of that untreated sheet flow stormwater. We provide a new stormwater system that removes 80% TSS removal. We decrease the impervious areas around the site, which is great because of the location within the wetlands and something we went through with Conservation Commission. We're removing existing trash and debris within the riverfront area and providing physical containment barriers around the perimeter of the site to help improve the overall conditions on the long run. And that summarizes the Site 1-3 Great Meadow Road.
Thank you. At the lights, please. Christine, we've spent a lot of time on this. Any comments?
No, you've read the conditions. I think we addressed all of the concerns that we had at the subcommittee, and the applicants reviewed them, correct? And with the addition, with the elimination of 7D and the addition of the hotspot, I think we're good on the conditions.
So hotspot will be condition 22, correct?
Yep.
So Christine, just for the sake of full transparency, do you mind just talking about the hotspot? Because I know that wasn't part of the subcommittee meeting, so.
Sure. So,
Okay, that's fine.
in mid-August, they did some additional soil sampling around the site, and that was one of the slides you showed, that was shown up there. You have it in your packet as well. And those soil samples were analyzed for VOCs, SVOCs, TPH, and metals. The out of the 8 samples, 1 came back with some PAHs over the S1 standards, and those are highlighted, that sample is highlighted in your packet as well. And that area was limited to the sample number SB 104/MW, sorry, SB 105/MW-4. And the condition that we've added is that when they start doing site development, they further characterize the horizontal and vertical extent of that contamination in the area, and that that area of the hotspot be removed for off-site disposal.
I'm looking at one, okay. That's SB 104, number
SB 105,
105.
it's down in the bottom.
Yeah, MW-4.
Okay, I want to see what was in it. Okay,
Can you put the,
Oh, you want
that back up there? Yeah.
okay.
So that, yeah, it's down in the southeast corner, thank you. And it triggered above the S1 standards for PAHs and TPH. So we've asked them to further define how deep and how wide that area of contamination goes, and then remove that from the site.
That's good.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. McSweeney. It was, he fostered that. He felt that it was going to be a problem, and it was. Are there any other questions?
No issues with the vapor barrier?
Nope, we've already started incorporating that into our documents.
What about, do you have any questions? Do we have subcommittee report, would you?
Yeah, we did, I mean, you know, high level, we did spend a lot of time in the meeting. The engineering firm did a great job, I think, in presenting, in being proactive with what they thought we were going to, you know, come up with. They did satisfy all of our concerns, particularly around testing once the old building structures are gone, and also waiting for the soil samples to come back before they came in front of the board, which they luckily got back. So it was a 2-0.
2-0. The proponents were very sensitive to people are going to be working there, and thus the vapor barrier, making the site incrementally better, cleaner. I was very satisfied with it. Any other questions before?
Mr. Chair, I'll just make I'll briefly say, even though I know we're going to be hearing about Building 10, I just want to say that, you know, our town has evolved in many ways with establishments, living quarters, et cetera. Our Department of Public Works is really the essence of our infrastructure, and I think it's high time that they had a facility that represents just what they do for our town. So bravo to you all.
And we have a good relationship. I will say you have a great boss, Mr. Sanchez, and they will be helping us out as they do twice a year for Household
Yep.
Hazardous Waste Day, which we will hear about again later on today. So,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the application for site plan and special permits for 13 Great Meadow Road.
A second?
I have a motion and second.
So can I just make a comment, Mr. Chair? I think because the two programs are linked, and I don't mind voting on it right now, because I think it's gonna get approved, but because they're linked, I think we wait to vote, and we can vote until after the other project is also presented. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, they are separate and distinct. They really
Understood,
are.
but the functions are linked. I would feel more comfortable waiting until at least the conversation of both is, but I don't have a problem voting on it.
So let's vote on it. Let's
Okay.
just get it out of the way. I think they'll be happier. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Don't come back if you don't like the other project.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0, okay. Now, let's go back, let's go to the next one, which is linked, which is 10 Great Meadow Road.
And before we get started, I have to strike condition 2D, as in David, was a typo, same typo. That needs to be struck for this
Is that
application.
in here, in the new document too? No, you're just telling us that.
I'm telling you, strike 2D.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
And
I believe, Christine, that maybe the number 2 is also, it should be 1, then A, B, C, D, and I apologize for not pointing that out in my email.
Oh, here we go.
The numbering is off.
Two
Okay.
what? What do we?
It's actually
what-
1.
Okay, so it's 1D, sorry. Got it.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Wait a minute, wait a
So the
minute.
whole
Wait,
numbering
It's
is
2D.
No, she just
No,
said the
it's-
whole
it's
number is
one.
We don't have, we propose conditions is prior to construction activities, and 2 is identify
No,
existing.
it's all the same thing. So the first one is, the Board of Health requires that the proponent present a well management plan, and this well management plan should A, B, C, D, A, B, C,
Not D,
right? Take D out.
so 1D.
So we
1D.
take, it becomes 1D.
Yep.
And all of the others then fall into line.
Yep.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Who is responsible now for putting these together? You are? Okay.
Sorry.
So now there are 14 instead of 15 conditions, all right, that we have here. Please,
What happened? This is being taken up,
Okay.
Yeah, because it's.
the whole thing? Or just
So again, I'll provide a brief overview for 10 Great Meadow Road, similar to the other site. 10 Great Meadow Road is shown in the upper left of the screen. This is the former Clark and Reed site, which is currently being used by the town for other functions at the moment, temporarily. This is a survey of the site. You can see Great Meadow Road in the upper left. There's an existing approximately 12,000 square foot building, as well as a 3,500 square foot building that were on the site when the town took over these sites. The limited disturbance areas are shown, again, in the gray area. As part of this, we also took a look at the stormwater, and no coincidence, I think, based on the age of these sites, we had very similar conditions. Sheet flow runoff across the paved areas, really to an untreated edge. And again, we went out on a rainy day, as you can see by the red arrow where we were standing, and just took a video to understand what's happening with that runoff. And similar to the other site, it really was just a matter of collecting at the edge and right off the site. So untreated, and again, this gives us a great opportunity to take care of that situation through the development for DPW and Parks and Recreation. There was a Phase 1 environmental site assessment done. No evidence of recognized environmental conditions were noted through that process. We have gone out and done soil samples and had no issues with contamination with regard to the soil. The proposed development plan for 10 Great Meadow Road, similar to the other site, we've reviewed the structures to determine if they were, could be potentially reused, and we found that they really had no value. So same process, we'll remove those structures and the paved surfaces, creating a blank slate, allowing us to improve the site with a proposed new facility. This facility, if you were to blow that up again to look at the interior, it includes very similar spaces. The darker blue areas represent office and employee facilities. The area in the bottom left represents, down in this bottom left area, are some shop spaces. Over to the right represents the vehicle maintenance area, and all the way on the end is the new vehicle wash bay, all enclosed. And we also have a vehicle and equipment storage garage. This building is about 28,400 square feet. For the stormwater system, we're proposing to provide deep sump-footed catch basins, again shown by the blue squares around the site, so that we can collect that runoff so that it's not sheet flow off of the site. We'll be going through water quality structures, hydrodynamic separators, and then ultimately through an underground infiltration chambers, and ultimately discharging off the site after treatment. We've gone through the peak rate attenuation analysis here as well. Our post-development flows are less than our pre-development flows, so again, an overall improvement. We'll eliminate that sheet flow stormwater runoff. We'll provide a building which will store vehicles inside, collecting that runoff in the floor drains that won't discharge, it'll discharge to the sewer system instead of the stormwater. We'll remove 80% TSS removal. Washing will be done undercover, discharging to the sewer system, not to the stormwater system. So overall, a much improved facility for DPW and for the surrounding environment.
thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't see the Board of Health offices there on that site. Christine, please, any comments?
I just wanted to add that all the maintenance activities will be at this site. There won't be maintenance activities any longer at 1 to 3 Great Meadow. That's why you have the larger vehicle maintenance area at this site. So that'll be maintenance for the DPW vehicles. And this is for The facility is both for DPW and Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do the subcommittee.
Yeah, same thing, this was less of a concern project. No historical dumping or contaminants at all on the site, so
We
pretty
spent
easy.
a lot of time with this, thank you. Board members, are there any other questions? I think we're there. It took a long time, but I think we're there. I had a question the other day and I couldn't answer it, and it really doesn't pertain totally to this. What is the cost for both projects together? Do we know? What is the budget?
32 million?
Yeah, it's approximately 32 million.
32 million, thank you very much. I have no other comments. I've been through this with the vice chair and the environmental engineer and director of public health, and I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the application for site plan and special permits for 10 Great Meadow Road.
And I'll second.
A motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you so much for coming.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Congratulations.
Thanks for coming in.
It's a long road.
Tony, sign-in sheet? Do you have it? The sign-in sheet?
No, no,
No, it was on the desk there.
it was on the desk.
I don't think there was
If
one.
you steal our sign-in sheet,
Oh, maybe there was
the
one.
automatic
wasn't one.
motions all get reneged.
Okay.
Do you
well,
need
let's
one,
get-
Don?
well, let's have you sign in before you leave then.
Mr. Murphy gets very mad if he can't sign in.
Mr. Morphy, you can come forward. And anybody else for 118 Cambridge Street?
I can take care of it. Don't worry. Yeah. Just sign in because you guys spoke. No, but he's got one.
Just when you're wondering where else you could get your oil changed, here you go. 'Cause I know you got, you get that old beauty out of here.
Slowly, we know Mr. Murphy is the attorney of that's present, and then your name, sir, for the,
I'm Randolph Kazazian. I'm the Vice President of Real Estate for Henley Enterprises, doing business as Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
thank you. And LSP is,
I'm Bill Mitchell, LSP.
Kevin Ganges, project manager.
thank you. Please, go ahead and present.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Brief background, then I'm going to defer to Mr. Mitchell. This site is 118 Cambridge Street, which for years was the site of the Harrington gas station. For the last several years, it's been the site of Stevens Auto Repair. If you're familiar with it, which I think most people are, it's right across from the high school. It's certainly, it's an old structure. It's been there for a long time, not the most attractive site. My client is ultimately, assuming everything goes well over the next several weeks, going to build and operate a Valvoline oil change center on the site. That's the proposal that's before the planning board. It's for application for site plan approval and a special permit. And site has a history, as I'm sure the board is aware. There was some contamination up there over the years between the gas station and a neighboring dry cleaner, I believe, some of which ran down onto the high school site. So that presented a bit of a challenge. Mr. Mitchell has been the LSP out there for a while, and he's familiar with the site. So we obviously wanted to pay a lot of attention to that situation and make sure that worked into the planning. I was not able to make the subcommittee meeting last week. I was elsewhere, but I understand that there's a very productive subcommittee meeting held. Sounds like most of the potential issues were discussed, and I'm going to defer to Mr. Mitchell in terms of any details the board might be looking for with respect to the underlying contamination problem or anything else having to do with the project. So, Bill?
Well, I could just one comment, and that was your three colleagues did a very nice job in that subcommittee meeting, and I think we're pretty satisfied.
No doubt. I mean, they're gonna dramatically clean up. This is definitely not their first rodeo in doing this type of work, and they're dramatically gonna clean up the site there, for sure. And address drainage and some contamination.
So please, go ahead, and is it gonna be Mr. Randall Cadesi? Who's gonna present? Are you,
Want to know much about the facility?
give us a summary, usually.
Just a summary would be great.
Just move a mic a little closer to you, yeah.
So, our proposal is to remove the existing structure, demolish that structure, and then build a Valvoline Instant Oil Change Service Center. That building will have a full basement in it, so obviously that presents a number of issues that we worked with Christine and obviously the subcommittee on last week. In addition, it will be a red brick building with an architectural shingle roof. It is a 3-bay facility, and it will, folks will exit on, or enter onto the property off Cambridge Road, and they will exit onto Edwards Road.
Safety concerns, secondary containment, and that, to
Right.
address
So
that?
the facility works fairly simply. Folks drive in on the ground level, and there's actually a hole or a slit in the floor, and underneath there is equipment that allows the technician to work on the bottom side of the car. On the top side is another technician, so they work in unison in a process we call Super Pro. And the customer stays in the car and they witness the oil change or any other fluid exchange. As far as the oils, we have a tank room that's in the basement. That room is diked to give it additional containment above the tanks. Beyond that, the basement floor is treated with epoxy as well, so that adds another level of containment in the event that there is an issue with one of the tanks. There are no floor drains in the structure. The oil is delivered just like home heating fuel. It comes in a truck very similar to home heating fuel. It's just segmented with different weight oils. And those deliveries are made to the tank room typically on a weekly basis. There is a rolling drain pan underneath the car that captures all the fluids as they're evacuated from the vehicle. And that is piped into a waste tank, and we typically have 1 to 2 500-gallon waste tanks in the basement. That oil will be recycled, so it will be manifested and shipped out, and it will be recycled, and the base stock will be reused for new motor oil or other uses. We expect the facility to service an average of 50 cars a day. Our peak hours and days are as what would people think, so we have some early morning folks. We'll have folks at lunchtime, and the latter part of the day. Fridays and Saturdays, and actually Sundays are our 3 busiest days. Beyond that, the site will be re-landscaped. There'll be the introduction of quite a bit of green space. We will irrigate the site. In addition, there will be a stormwater receptor that will receive, right now there's sheet flow off to site. That water will be captured and then pumped into the stormwater system that exists on Edwards Road.
Mr. Mitchell, please let the board and people watching, what type of remediation and how you are as an LSP designing to make the site cleaner.
This site right now has what we call a temporary solution. DEP has supplied us with a tool that we're supposed to have all these sites cleaned up in 5 years. So if they're not cleaned up within 5 years, it ends up into a temporary solution. And typically that's a site where it's maybe not cost beneficial, or technical to remove the contamination. In other words, remove every molecule from this site because we're in a drinking water resource area. All right, so this is one of the town's protective areas. So there is a little bit of residual that remains, but there's been significant excavation, some injection out there of trying to attempt to reduce the mass of the contamination at the site. There's been success there with the exception of one well that exceeds the drinking water standards right now. So we're gonna dewater. We have a basement that's gonna go into the water table. So we plan on doing some dewatering and also excavation. We're gonna try to grab that small contamination that remains on the site while we're working the site. And that's gonna include dewatering and also treatment. Basically sedimentation treatment and carbon treatment will be used. Will be treated on-site via a RGP permit. That's an EPA discharge permit to the open water body. Thank you. We'll also have a release abatement measure plan that will be submitted to DEP that will have, and I've tried my best to get some draft stuff in your hands, the board. We've got some more things we're gonna add to that plan, and we're gonna submit that. And therefore, we will have approval from SDEP to basically do this cleanup out there. So we're gonna be dewatering and removing contaminated soils. The contaminated soils, there'll be minimum stockpiling. We're looking at a load and go operation out there because of the tightness of the site. As far as the treatment works goes, we don't know whether we're gonna have 24-hour treatment or whether we're gonna have, we'll be able to dewater and the recharge and the excavation will be minimum, so we don't have to run the treatment system for 24 hours. I mean, does that kind of get you?
Are you going to, will there be continued treatment after development?
No.
Okay.
No, that's, the dewatering is mainly just to depress the groundwater to get the structure in the ground.
Okay.
And then once the structure in the ground, that groundwater is gonna recover to its normal level.
I would just add that the continued treatment will continue across the street.
Across the street.
At 111 Cambridge Street, because that's where they're doing, injection. ExxonMobil continues to do that work.
When are we gonna carve up Cambridge Street and get it all out? Won't let us.
We actually, Mobile may contribute to this. We've been trying to work with them. All right, the PRP are the potential responsible party, and they've actually contributed to our release abatement measure plan now. They want to basically help contribute to the excavation of that problematic well. It's called MW30, monitoring well 30. And we're also looking at potentially doing some ROS pellet applications before. So there would be ongoing treatment after we backfill.
So how much soil do you think you're gonna be removing?
Probably about 800 tons.
800 tons of contaminated soil. Thank you.
And thousands of gallons of water.
Yeah, so the basement is 2,500 square feet, and it's be approximately 10 foot deep, so I give you an idea of the
The
cubic
amount of
mass.
contaminated. So that's a step in the right direction.
Yep.
We did one in Salem just recently, and that's where I get that number from. And all these facilities are very similar as far as soil volume goes.
Thank
So
you.
we're taking all the soil out of there, as much as we can grab while we're there.
Also to add, the existing facility has hydraulic lifts for servicing vehicles in the past. There'll be sampling underneath where those hydraulic lifts are coming out, and the new facility does not use hydraulic lifts, as was mentioned.
We have a subcommittee, I'm sorry.
I did look in the doors on my way to the meeting. I can see where there's two round, you did the same, right?
Right.
So
So we've identified.
it's
how-
concreted over, so I'm
Yeah.
wondering if the structure's still there
So
or not.
as part of the demolition,
Yeah.
obviously, we'll excavate the reservoirs, and to the extent there's impacted soils, that soil will be removed and disposed of properly.
And this condition here, number one, is no problem. We do that every time for all the lifts. So that's-
Condition one that he's speaking about is complete a subsoil testing and analysis in the area. So,
Although the drain has been shut off in the existing structure years ago, right? So it doesn't seem like.
That's correct.
Yeah, and there's-
2008, when they did the
So we don't think
large
there's any
soil
issues there.
removal.
Yep. Do you mind, also, we talked a little bit.
Drains she was talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We talked a little bit about what you're doing to the basement for your, protecting the employees. I just think it's worth mentioning,
Sure,
how you're
so,
treating that.
So there was, obviously, we're in the water table, but there was some discussion about potentially vapors. So the slab of the basement floor will be treated with a special sealer that would stop any penetration of vapors through the slab. In addition, on top of that would be another epoxy coating that we do that adds that second level of containment. Also doesn't allow virgin concrete to be soiled. The third part of the facility is there is an air exchange that goes on in the basement that's part of the process, and so that will be there too, to add it. It's part of our facility. We put it in even when we don't have environmental conditions, despite the fact we do redevelop quite a few old gas stations, but it's another part of it to make sure our team members are safe.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a subcommittee.
Yeah, I mean, again, this was actually a quick subcommittee meeting. They did a great job being prepared, addressed all concerns that we had, added to, more than agreeable to adding to, doing some extra measures, and we voted 2-0 to approve it.
Yes, we did. Any other comments from our environmental engineer, or any other questions?
Just pertaining to the proposed conditions, and talking to Mr. Mitchell before the meeting tonight, I just wanted to bring these two items to the board's attention for their consideration. In both in number 4 and number 5, there's language in there in which an opinion is requested of the LSP, which he'll certify essentially that proposed activities will, and this is the clause that concerns him, in any way affect current planned remedial activities. That language is in 4, and is also in number 5. It's a little, in any way, that an act of God, anything could possibly happen. He's a little leery about putting his professional opinion with such a broad,
Just like in any way struck from this document.
I mean, there are things that could happen that could affect this site that would have nothing to do with our project or anything else, and the language "in any way" is just a little worrisome to him. So if the board would consider perhaps removing that language from that certification, it would make Mr. Mitchell sleep better at night.
If I had control over that, I wouldn't have problems with it, but I do not have control over an act of God. Theft, trespassing, vandalism, those are not, I can't control those issues under my license.
I think the other thing too that's probably worth considering is we are removing quite a bit of soil from the site, so I think the benefits of the soil removal and the other things probably outweigh if there's something else is triggered. I think we'll have removed more than perhaps what we've exacerbated.
So, Mr. Murphy, do you have a suggestion on rewording it?
My only suggestion would be to strike that language as activities will, and there's a comma, in any way, then a closed comma, affect current, just take out "in any way." So he is willing to give an opinion that the proposed activities won't affect the current remedial activities, but he just doesn't like that "in any way" language, because, as he said, things beyond his control could intervene, and he just doesn't want to be on the hook for that.
I'll leave that for the environmental engineer and the Director of Public Health.
So my comment on, 4, an opinion as to whether the proposed on-site activities will not affect current and planned remedial activities? Or, because we're not expecting them to, how will they, so we're not expecting them to affect.
Right, will not, I guess.
Right, so.
Will not.
Will not affect current and planned activities. Is that what your opinion is going to be around?
I mean, that's what my opinion is gonna be.
So maybe instead of will in any way, will not affect current and proposed activities for number 4. And then the other one was,
Maybe
Was it 5
significant in
or
front of
6?
that would be nice too.
And
Significantly not.
Well, it's fairly subjective, right? So,
But it just, all right.
You have your choice, significant or in any way. I mean,
got nod or
I'll
anything.
leave environmental engineer.
I'm fine with that and change to both. I want to point out that number 5 is not a request for an LSP opinion from you. It's a request for an LSP opinion from the LSP of record for Exxon.
Oh, geez, they'll hate that language.
Well, I'm just clarifying that so you understand.
No, good point.
I'm fine with both, changing both to will not.
Does the board feel okay with
I'm
that?
fine, because it's already
You're
written
fine
like
with
that at
that?
5 if you just cross out in any way.
I'm
Doctor,
Yeah.
you okay? All right, is there any other questions for the proponents?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the application for site plan and special permits 118 Cambridge Street with the changes to condition 4 and condition 5 as stated.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. No other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So don't leave. You're on television now. When are you coming to Burlington? When do you expect to open?
So we're hoping to break ground in October if all goes well.
And be complete and open for business?
Probably April.
Thank you very much. The town knows. Thank you so much,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
As always, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much.
Good luck.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Permits. 151 Mill Street, keeping of animals for chickens. Ms. Johnson, are you the one who's
No,
doing?
no.
You don't, oh. And sir, since you're on camera, your name, please?
Sangam Das,
How do you spell your last name?
D-A-S-H.
D is in dog, A-S.
David, yeah.
Thank you so much. D-A-S-H. Thank you, Mr. Dash. Thank you for coming, Mr. Dash.
Yeah, I've been coming here 3 times.
I know. Please have a seat. Please have a seat.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. So Mr. Dash was here at our July 23rd meeting, and there was a discussion about using an existing shed for his chicken coop. And the shed was less than 15 feet from the property line. And the board asked Mr. Dash to come up with an alternate plan because they were not comfortable in granting the variance for the use of the shed as a chicken coop. So Mr.
And we did have neighbors.
We did have a neighbor
Neighbor
here
here as well.
that was present, yep. So Mr. Dash, I went out on July 30th, Samantha and I went out to discuss his alternate plan, and that was to build the coop directly next to the deck, but not attach it to the house. So there's a picture included in your packet, that's attachment 3. So my recommendation, if you take a look at attachment 3, Mr. Dash has started to build the coop, but it was not completed when you were out there. I don't know if you've done any more work. It's still not complete, okay.
The coop is complete. I'm just waiting for you guys to approve it so that I can pick the spot. Then I can move the coop.
So the spot that you would like to put it in, is that the spot that you had showed us previously? Okay.
So it's in the drawing where it says coop and run area, that's,
So, yeah, so in attached, actually you can see the picture. So the next one is a picture of, that's the beginning construction of his coop. The run area would be beside it, so obviously this isn't near
So
complete.
last time it was not 15 feet from the property line because of the set. So I'm trying to build, or I have already built a coop, and it's a movable one, so I built it on pallets and wooden and stuff. And I will place it 16 feet from the property line, and maybe one side is like 10 feet from my house, the other side is like 2 feet from the deck. So it's not attached to the house, and it's 16 feet from the property line, because that was the objection last time. And then, once I build the coop and move it, if you guys approve that plan, I can move it, and then Samantha, you can come in and take a look. Everything else, whatever was there in the set will be the same. There'll be automatic waterer, automatic feeder, the floor will be similar. Only thing is that it's not plastic, it's made out of wooden boards, right? And I'm putting like roof singles on top of it, plus plastic.
That's great.
So that the snow doesn't go in. You can come in and take a look.
And you'll be building roosts and nesting boxes inside?
Everything is I built like a, so that I can remove my eggs from outside. I built it the same way, like your traditional looks like. So that is a good addition right now, because I built it from scratch, so instead of using a plastic set. I'm just worried about all the regulations, if I'm following it, if you approve it, then
Well,
I can even move the coop wherever we want.
it's been recommended that coop must be of sturdy construction, adhere to management practices, be completed by September 27th, that's about 1 month from today. At which 1 month from today, we'll have an inspection, and if it's not complete, you'll be back here for the 5th time. So we don't want that. The 4th time. So, that is the recommended from our Director of Public Health. Sure, please.
Susan, would the assistant, or would it be the assistant Samantha that would just, I don't know if he's looking for support to review it before he completes it, is that what you're looking for?
No.
No? You just-
Last time, only problem was I was trying to use an existing shed,
Okay.
and,
this-
but it was like 4 feet from the property line, and the neighbor was here, so I was not approved. And this time I'm building it from scratch, and I can put the coop anywhere I want. So it's like 16 feet from the property line.
So what will happen is when we go out on September 27th, either before or on September
No,
27th.
now it's ready, like you
Okay.
came there.
You can
like-
come now?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's all
I didn't
done.
know if that's what he was asking before he moves
Okay,
forward.
so we will make sure that it adheres to best management practices so that they have, so it's of sturdy construction, so it's not gonna fall over if it's got snow on it, and,
Yeah, it's like 200 pounds right now, so I cannot even move it.
So it's staying where it is?
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
is it in the correct location right now?
No, I have to move it a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right, then it's not ready.
So I'm glad.
All right, almost.
But yeah,
Okay.
it follows all the regulations, but like it's blocking a little bit of pathway for me
Yeah.
that I have to move. So I told my, I get some help and I will move it.
Is your run
The run
complete?
ready? Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
The run is not complete because it will be attached to the coop.
Yeah,
Once you approve this, then I will make that run complete.
okay, so then you can let me know when that's all done.
So
Yeah.
it's movable right now, anywhere it's movable, you just come in and take a look at it.
That's what I thought, that's what I was asking. I
Do
think
we-
they was
Yeah.
to review it.
Do we have any butters here? We know butters. Butters were notified.
Yes.
We have a note from the butter.
Yeah.
I think it was the same butter who came.
No, that's
That's
a
a
different,
different
that's a
one.
different
Oh, yeah.
one.
That's a different permit.
We're not opposed to,
No, that's a
That's-
different
that's
permit.
different. So we,
I looked at that too, Wayne. It's different. We have a
we
lot
did
of
not
chickens
hear from,
tonight.
and we sent them letters, but did not hear from any of the abutters on this one.
I think they were very satisfied with the conversation that we had last time.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I think you satisfied all the concerns that we've had. I'll make a motion to approve the permit for 151 Mill Street, keeping of animals. And I want to make sure it's 4 chickens, Susan, because I think I saw some comments that he was looking for 6 chickens at one time.
He
had to
changed
come
his mind
back.
on that.
Oh,
So it's just 4 chickens?
Just 4, right?
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. You know, as you know, Mr. Dash, no roosters? Okay, I live on Freeport Drive, I don't want to hear roosters waking me up. And so,
Yeah, even people, my neighbors were complaining about they can hear it from them, although he checked, like, they didn't have any windows, not doors on this side of the property. I don't know how they can hear it, yeah.
I have a motion, and I have a second. Do I have a second?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Thank you for working with us. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. You're all set.
So the recordings are available, so that I can show it to my wife and stuff?
She can watch it now. They call
You're
BCAT.
live right now.
Call BCAT.
It's a nice experience for me, actually, so I just wanted to keep 4 pet chickens, that's all.
Thank you for working with us.
Thank you.
We
Appreciate
wish
it.
you well.
Okay, good luck.
Yeah, the first time nobody came, my nice neighbors never showed up, so much easier right now.
Okay,
I can set up some time with you so that you can
Sure.
come in and check. Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thank you. 5 Spruce Hill Road, keeping of animals, 5 chickens.
I hope I'm not gonna be here for 3 times.
I hope so. What is your name, please?
My name is Firoz Khan.
How do you spell your last name, please?
Last name spelled P-A-T-H-A-N.
Okay, I just like to address you correctly with
Sure.
Mr. Pathan. So tell us what you want to do.
So I wasn't aware that I'm gonna need a permit, so I'm a little behind. I already have chickens there. Susan went down. I was out of the country at that time, so I couldn't meet you before, but nice to meet you now. I just came back. I got your emails. I am working on expanding the coop size so that it meets the 3-foot per bird requirement. And I believe everything else was okay. There was a complaint about chicken being outside. My 3-year-old son unfortunately didn't lock the door correctly a couple of times. So that address has been issued, resolved. I taught him how to close the doors, change the locks so that that doesn't happen and the chicken cannot go out of the coop area or the run area.
Are there any abutters here? We do have one abutter, or 2 abutters,
We had initial complaint,
okay?
and then we had 2 emails from abutters. And they are not opposed to the chickens. They said they're not opposed to you having chickens. They just don't want them roaming around the neighborhood, which is not allowed per the regulations.
Right. So like I mentioned, that my 3-year-old son, he didn't.
It's an error.
I know.
Yeah.
How does a chicken cross the street? Why does a chicken cross the street?
So I do have one with similar condition on this one as well, that the coop should be of sturdy construction. And the one he has is, it's just not
Too
big
small,
enough, yeah. Adhere to best management practices and be at least 12.5 square feet. And the extension should be completed by September 27th, at which time we'll conduct an inspection.
Have you seen that condition,
Yes.
Mr. Pathan? Okay,
It's in the emails, yes.
good. Are there any other questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the permit request for keeping of 5 chickens, 5 Spruce Hill Road.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming, and they will be coming back to see you in a month.
Sure, I'll set up an appointment with you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Variance, Karma Restaurant, 75 Middlesex Turnpike, acidification of sushi rice.
You know, I was just thinking about sushi rice, and isn't it karma that it's,
Oh, my gosh, that's,
So late for the joke.
you have gone afoul after the
yes,
last. All right. Your names, please, Mr.?
My name's Iverson Guo. I'm the owner of
You'll-
Karma Restaurant Group.
Could you please spell your last name, please?
It's a G-U-O.
G-U. And sir?
My name's Arnold Price. I'm the food consultant that's working with Mr. Guo.
Okay, who is handling this,
That'd be me.
please?
So Mr. Goa is here before you. He is going to be opening Kama, located at the Burlington Mall. That's going in next to
Fran Pepe.
Frank Pepe's, right? Frank Pepe's. And he would like to receive the Board of Health approval for a variance to use acidification to store sushi rice out of temperature control. The food establishment will use vinegar as a method of food preservation, as acidification, which is permitted per the Food Code, Chapter 3, 50211C2, with Board of Health approval. And he has received a copy of this, so my recommendation is for the board to approve it with the conditions 1 through 9.
Doctor, you have questions, I know.
Can you tell us about your plan to maintain acidification?
So this is my fourth location. I started my first restaurant in Westford. It's been 13 years. So over the 13 years, we keep a very good record of keep the log, timing. We make the rice, every batch we test it. We maintain it pretty good. So in the 13 years, I opened the first one in Westford, second one in Andover, third one Concord, Mass. So this one, the fourth one. All my sushi chefs, they are well trained. They are not like a couple years, the new guy. Basically, they have a 7-8 years experience. Everybody knows how to test the rice, put on a log, watch the timing, so forth. So
what is your means by maintaining acidification?
Means?
Yeah, so what do you use? Do you use litmus paper? Do you use?
Oh, we
meter?
use the
What do
test
you
strip.
use?
So we use the test strip to test the pH of the rice.
And the fish that you're using for sushi, it is frozen when you get it? It is
So
frozen?
all my seafood I get it from the fish pier. So I always hand select the best sushi grade fish. So all the vendor they has a plan. Only the tuna, it's a wild caught, but the salmon, the other most common fish, that's the farm raised.
Farm raised?
Yeah, farm raised.
So that's how you ensure no parasites? The
Yes.
farm raised
Yes.
and the tuna?
Tuna is a wild caught because the deep sea fish. So there's a different.
There are no,
And then the other species would be frozen from his distributor where he gets it from.
you get
where
it
he purchased
frozen from your distributor?
Yeah, so my distributor, they already have a complete hazard plan. It's done in the facility, so I just purchase through the vendor. Yeah, I get it fresh,
It's not that, I want to make sure that there are no parasites in your fish. I ask this to every single proponent who comes here who's going to make sushi. I want to make sure that your distributor has frozen it, and therefore it comes parasite-free. Is that correct?
So it's a parasite-free, yes.
And how do you know that?
Huh?
How do you know that?
Because all the fish, it's a farm raised. It's already processed.
They have their letters of HACCP certification for the parasite destruction.
Okay, they have,
Sure.
are you comfortable with that?
I am.
Thank you. I'm really sensitive to that. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Don't think so.
Marlene, you have the conditions, and how many conditions are there?
There were 9.
There are 9. Have you seen the 9 conditions?
Yeah, is that on the checklist in 1 through 9 that you sent?
Right, so that was the summary, the variance request, 1 through 9.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the variance for
Karma.
the use of acidification to store sushi rice out of temperature control.
Second.
I have a motion, well, I have a question. It says here acidification of sushi rice. Does that, as far as the temperature, what about the temperature?
The temperature is irrelevant because you're using the acidification
That's
as a
what
right.
That's what I thought. It's irrelevant.
Yes.
Okay. Sir, did you have a question before we?
No.
Then I'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Now, when are you going to be opening?
That's a good question.
And you're opening in the.
Remember, you're on television now, and this is a free commercial. We do this for
Thank you
every
for doing
single
that.
new proponent.
And you're opening in the Burlington Mall?
Huh?
In the mall?
In the mall.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank Pepe, that's
Yeah,
great.
it used to be Uno space.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize that there was additional space next to, right, no, on the inside.
Yeah.
As you walk, so you walk past Frank Pepe's when you go in.
No, I'm not using the mall entrance. I'm gonna create my own entrance.
great.
Ah, okay,
I have
good.
my separate, so that's why the last meeting for special permit, that's for the entrance outdoor.
So, and it's just sushi? So tell us a
So
little
it's
bit
an
about that.
Asian
Yeah.
fusion.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of like a contemporary Pan-Asia food.
Yeah.
So my sushi is my specialty. I was trained in New York Times Square for many years, and I came to Massachusetts, start my first restaurant in 2006. And we cater a lot of sushi event for the New England Patriots, for the city of Boston, and for the governor as well.
Thank you.
I've eaten there maybe close to 1 million times. I'm not saying this to make an impression, but it is literally the best sushi I've ever eaten in my life.
Well, if it fits Tom Brady's diet plan. I'm all for it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
4-0.
Thank you.
Welcome to Burlington.
Welcome, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
No strawberries.
Okay. Discussion. 104 Wynn Street Plumbing Variance Recommendation. Who is handling that?
Good evening.
Please come forward. Is that,
That's me.
that's you? And, now,
So, Mr. Chairman, before we start, just for full transparency, that Dr. Lombardo has been my dentist for 20-plus years, but I don't feel it's the conflict.
no.
Yeah, nice.
All right.
Let me see.
There's no conflict of interest, it's only a
You've done great
recommendation.
work with what you could.
Got a fabulous family, great kids. All right, well, thank you very much.
And you, sir?
Robert Tompkins.
And you are?
I'm the contractor.
Are you a plumber? You're not the plumber, okay. 'Cause-
General contractor.
General contractor, anything that we need to have done, we go through RHT Builders. They're fabulous. And then he captains the ship for plumbing, electrical, all the people involved. I will preface this that in 2012, we completed an office renovation. At that time, we had purchased quite a bit of equipment. Amongst that equipment was 3 dental chairs. They were purchased through the Henry Schein Dental and Medical Equipment. I have descriptions of said chairs, the invoices, the installation. Most importantly, upon completion of that renovation at that time is the permit that we had, and that was signed off by the electrical, plumbing, and building inspector. So as we're going through our compliance and project this time, the current plumbing inspector seems to be under the impression that one of the dental chairs is not in compliance because it's not on a list that he seems to be using. This list is for the Division of Professional Licensure, acceptable plumbing products. And it doesn't list dental equipment or dental chairs.
So this is the chair you've been using in your office for
2012.
years?
Yes,
It's a new
exactly.
chair in 2012.
Since 2012.
Since
Yeah, but you-
2012.
That's yours. Yes,
All
that's-
brand
No, I'm just saying it's a
that
new
qualifies for
chair.
yours, yeah.
Yeah, all brand new, state-of-the-art, everything's great. What we're asking to do is that in our current remodel, is to move that chair from one room to another room. That's basically it. And the plumbing inspector seems to feel that the chair is not in compliance.
Well, you understand that that we don't necessarily do a vote, we just say whether we object or not
Okay.
object. So,
So,
I'm ready to make a motion right now.
so we're simply asking to move the chair 10 feet into the next room.
So I did speak to the plumbing inspector.
I tried to call today, too.
Yeah. So what he did say was that this particular chair was not on the approved list. This is what he told me for dental chairs. And so he wasn't sure if this dental chair had a lead-free faucet or had the appropriate backflow device. So I did speak to Mr. Tompkins, and he said that we're gonna look and see if you could get some specs on this chair to see if it was lead-free certified, the current one that you have that you bought in 2012.
Right.
Were you able to find that?
Yeah, there's no lead in.
In 2012,
This was in 2012, this was put in.
Right,
Yeah, so you were able to find the specs on the chair?
Yes, we got all the
Yes.
specs for it.
Yeah, and those specs
full
say,
description of everything,
okay, that it's lead-free certified, because that was his concern.
Absolutely.
Okay,
right,
yeah, I'm ready to vote on it now.
yeah.
Well, I guess I don't understand. Then what happened in 2012?
Well, so what he was saying is from 2012 to present,
It's not
they
on the
had
list.
changed the requirement for those chairs. That there was other things too, some other kind of safety
But the
requirements.
chair must
he
have
was
been
talking-
on the list at some point in time.
Well,
That chair, in 2012, it
Yeah.
was an approved chair, and he's saying now it's not an approved chair.
Well, there are no approved chairs now.
So if he wasn't moving it,
So at
he
the
could still
time,
use
there
it.
was approved chairs, and then they decided not to approve them?
So.
Is that what you're saying?
I thought
Here's,
spittoons
here's
were out
what's
now.
interesting, is that the dental equipment manufacturers, there's 15 manufacturers, okay? And they're distributed by Henry Schein Company, Benco, Patterson, they're all compliant. But through the division of plumbing, and we're talking plumbing, there is one chair listed. It's by a company called ADEC. And they're model 300, 400, and 500. One chair is on that list of all the dental equipment manufacturers in the entire country. One chair is on that list. That's it.
Sounds like a monopoly to me.
I mean,
This is like pulling teeth.
Susan, so if he wasn't,
What's interesting is what he listed for the apparent list that he's going by is, it's not even the Pelton Crane, it's Sterling Plumbing, and it's for a under-counter lavatory. I don't even know what that is.
So, I mean, the board has been pretty consistent in stuff that's grandfathered and otherwise understood to be safe or within specs that we typically, I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion.
So make a motion, please.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve the variance for MA Plumbing Code CMR 248.3 to 10.
I second.
I have a motion and second. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Now, we're gonna send a recommendation of approval, and then it leaves our hands.
But actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I should not have done a motion to approve. I should have done a motion of no objection.
No objection.
No objection,
So
all
I
right.
apologize.
Okay, so we don't have to revote. Will you, all in favor? Motion objections, but, so we have no objection to this. So now it goes to the
The plumbing board.
plumbing board.
And our objection essentially says that there is no risk for public health.
Okay.
That's what our objection says, because that's why you're here.
So here's my concern, is that the project is due to be finished, could be finished this weekend. Then everything's clean and sterilized and so forth, and patients are scheduled next week. The intent was to move this chair into another treatment room.
So we've offered no objection. That's as far as we go. This has nothing, this has no impact on public health, and so we're done. As far as you're moving the chair and doing everything else, that has to, you have to go through the
Normal building
the process.
So you've submitted your application to the state plumbing board. I don't know how long it takes for the state plumbing board to have their hearings. So they have hearings on every application, and they approve or disapprove that. And if they approve it, then you give that to the plumbing inspector, who would then sign off on the chair.
So he wouldn't let this go until that's improved?
Probably not,
Approved?
no, I don't think so, yes.
We are a cog in the process. So it is not under our purview to recommend to you at all next steps with regard to your renovation. All we can say is that your renovation or your chair has no impact on the public's health.
Okay.
Do you know how long he's held, he brought this up as an issue? How long ago was that?
Was it last week?
Yeah,
Yeah,
about a week ago.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's still moving it through the process as he should, but
Okay.
that's not in our purview. We just either, if we had an issue with it from a public
Right.
health perspective, it could hold it up, but.
So we just make the recommendation.
Okay.
That we have no objection.
thank you.
Would this go to the, would it?
That's what you give to the state plumbing board. So the state, that's what, on the application for the variance from the state plumbing board, they want to see a letter from the Board of Health. So that's what you bring to them, is that letter that we just gave you tonight.
Right, okay,
So Dr. Lombardo,
yes.
I've been on the Board of Health for 31 years and chairman. Was it not your father who was a member of the Board of Health in Medford?
That's my father,
I knew it.
Salvatore
Rest his soul.
Lombardo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Right. You may know my mom, Lola Lombardo.
I
Yeah,
your
we
mom.
know Lola,
Right.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew your father. I remember him as
So
on the
much,
Board of Health
yeah,
in Medford.
right.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Is Mr. McSweeney incredibly good at expectorating?
I don't talk about my dental hygiene,
Like Gaston?
All right.
but I will see you in 2 weeks though, so.
I want to brush this all off. We got another. Oh, my God.
No problem too, that's great. Okay, I appreciate your time.
Luck.
Right.
Thanks for waiting too, I know it was a long agenda.
Long
Well,
agenda.
I appreciate it was last minute. My concern is that no dental equipment is going to be in plumbing products line at all. There's no dental equipment. So,
Thank you for coming.
okay, thank you.
I wish we could do more.
I appreciate that.
Policy on stormwater and runoff discharges. I'll leave that with our Director of Public Health.
Okay, so I worked with David on this, on creating this policy that we could put together so that we were consistent in addressing these stormwater and runoff management issues. Not only just sump pumps, but also other kinds of stormwater issues, kind of what we've seen on Cambridge Street in other areas. So I provided you with a hard copy that is redlined, and I spoke to Dr. Weiner today, and he added these suggestions or changes to the original copy. So I guess what I'm looking for here is just an approval from the board and an understanding that this is how we're going to move forward in addressing these types of issues.
I think the only change that is of note is 6 months instead of waiting a year. And just a couple of,
I think the biggest change is that, you know, if the season was over and it was based upon what was going on with the continual issue with stormwater or sump pump on Fox Hill. Once the season was over and then they had an infraction the following season, whatever season that is, we have to start the clock all over again, right? So another order letter and so forth and so on, whereas now it's one continuation within a certain period of time.
Yeah, I think it's a year, so going
Years,
back a
right.
year. So if they had a violation and then 7 months later, they had another violation, then we would immediately issue an order letter and a fine.
That's great.
so what is the next step here? We approve it. Does it have to be posted anywhere? Does
No, this is more like an internal policy on
internal
how we're gonna
policy.
handle things, yeah.
It's consistent, obviously, with any regulations. that are out there.
Yeah, those would be our current stormwater regulations.
Do I have a motion?
I just have one
Is a
question.
motion?
So just, have you seen, because I've only been on the board 2 terms, have you seen a lot more investigations that you've had to go out in the last year or so?
No,
Has there been
not
an
more than,
increase?
No.
No?
I mean, the biggest year
Violation.
was, I think it was 2010, where we had, that's because it was raining all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
We had a huge rain for a long period of time. That was the biggest year where I think we had these, so.
But I just see,
recently,
it
no.
seems
I mean,
like
it
a
all
lot of
depends on the
a
rain.
repeat, that's what I see, like, if you have a violation, you investigate, it's corrected, it seems that you, in the past year or so, you've had a lot of repeat.
This is, well,
With the violation.
specifically, mainly with one
Oh, okay,
person.
thought it was a
Yeah,
couple.
no, most
see.
people are
Okay.
great, and they'll just fix it, you know.
The number of investigations this past season was largely driven by reinvestigations of a particular
The same one,
location.
yeah.
I think we had,
I've just seen a lot in your reports.
I
that
think
you're
we
right,
had
it's
one
the
other
same.
property that had a repeat violation, but there's one property in particular that have had multiple reinvestigations.
It's rare that we have to go to court. It's very rare
Yeah.
over something like this. But in doing so, we did find that we needed to update this protocol, so. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
I have a motion and second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor?
All right.
thank you.
Thanks for doing that, David and Director. That's great.
All right. We're at staff reports. Environmental engineer.
Good evening. As you mentioned earlier, we are having household hazardous waste coming up on September 21st at Francis Wyman Elementary School, which is at 41 Terrace Hall Ave, 8:30 to noon. You can see our website or flyers around town for details. The other update that I wanted to give you was on mosquito activity. And over the weekend, at the end of last weekend, over the weekend, the third and fourth cases of human triple E were reported. And triple E tends to come in every decade or so. There's a bout of triple E. If you look back at last year's data, there were no human reported cases of triple E in Massachusetts. This year we have 4. And they were, the 4 cases were in 4 different counties. They were in Plymouth, Bristol, which are sort of New Bedford and going towards down the Cape, and then one in Worcester County, and then one in Franklin County. The normal remedy for triple E is for the state to add aerial spraying in those areas, and that has commenced. There's been 2 aerial spraying. This is aerial spraying in addition to what they do in the spring for larvicide control. This is for adult mosquito control, and they've done 2 rounds of spraying in Bristol and Plymouth counties, and they've done, they started aerial spraying this week in parts of Worcester and parts of Middlesex County, not near us in Middlesex County. And there are 4 areas of the state that have been moved to either critical or high risk associated, and those are in Bristol, Plymouth, Worcester, 5 areas, Franklin County, and then also up in the area up around Methuen. And those increase in risks have been made due to the trappings of mosquitoes that are positive for triple E. And those numbers have increased significantly as well from last year. Last year, they had 2 positive triple E mosquitoes, and this year they've had 334. So like I said, they tend to come in clumps, and it's based on weather patterns and what type of mosquito develops best in those typical weather patterns. So what people can do to protect themselves are the standard things we talk about all the time, which are use a repellent with DEET in it, avoid activities outside from dusk to dawn when the mosquitoes are most active, wear long sleeves, pants, and socks, make sure your screens don't have any holes, and remove any standing water from around your home.
Thank you very much. There was 1 death.
Yes, a person who was found to have triple E virus did die. They have not done the autopsy to state whether or not that was the cause of the death.
Well, I think that everybody knows in town, and I thank town meeting for approving our mosquito program here, but we have had a mosquito program for more than 30 years here in this town, and we always have truck-mounted spraying. Early on, we have helicopter, truck-mounted spraying, and we have not had any cases in Burlington. But it's very important that you follow some recommendations. And I think there's a website that you've talked about in the past which describes the effectiveness of certain insecticides, or certain repellents, I should say.
Yeah, those links are on our website, but I'm going to also post a couple new links that are more specific to EEE, because historically, it's West Nile virus that you find more cases of. Last year, there were 44 cases of West Nile virus. This year, so far, there's none. Again, it's just a variety of mosquitoes. And thank you for mentioning our participation in the local mosquito control project.
Very good. Are there any other questions for environmental engineer?
Mr. Chair, could I make a request, Christine? Can you bring back the glossary?
I think they just moved it.
It's under acronyms.
If you just look under my report, there it says acronyms.
So
Oh. Got it, okay.
So it's there each time.
Never mind.
Instead of,
Great.
yeah.
Great. I didn't see that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the environmental engineer report.
Well, I think there are other questions.
Oh.
Please, you have any questions?
No, I'm good,
Do you
thank
have
you.
any I have one more. Special permits for change in operation of Lemaitre Vascular. Is that coming before us, or?
Hold on.
Kristen Kastner, Planning Director.
Oh, it will if they file for it, yes.
And what are they trying to do? Do we
They,
know?
they applied for a special permit for, to be able to use laboratory facilities at 43 Second Ave. It had previously just been office space.
Okay.
So they added the laboratory, but they didn't add a special permit for the storage of hazardous materials. So now they need to add the storage for hazardous materials.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Saltzman,
I've made my motion, sir,
which was?
to approve the.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
I have motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Only what you did for me, it did to me for how many years?
I know.
All right, health agent.
Good evening. Just to give you some updates with my report. So McDonald's, as you had read, we had to temporarily suspend their frozen dessert machine permit, and that was lifted on June 14th. They were able to get into compliance. And I have received 2 additional reports for the month of July and August, no issues. Lifetime Athletics had some violations during their routine inspection in July. They had missed their bacteriological lab testing that they were supposed to do in June. That was part of a variance, so they have a variance on the outdoor leisure pool for the flow rate. And so when the state approved it, the state wanted to have these tests done once a month while the pool was open, the outdoor pool. So they missed June, so they were cited for that. They had missed recording alkalinity and calcium hardness, which is supposed to be done once a week. And they also didn't record when they were cleaning the special purpose pools or the spas. Supposedly, there was another employee who were doing these tasks, and he claims that his logs were lost. So they were cited for that. You'll be happy to know that they did provide the bacteriological testing for the months of July and August, no issues. And they have fixed their log problem. So they have one log, and everything gets put onto this one log, so they don't have more than one log where the confusion happened last time. And lastly, the Microsoft store in the mall. We had somebody from another camp in town call and say that they saw on the marquee that Microsoft was offering a free camp. So wanted to know, are they really a camp? And they didn't meet the definition. They were using that camp when they shouldn't have. So I went into the store and I spoke to the assistant manager and followed it up with a letter. And they took it off their website and they also took it off the marquee, so. And that's pretty much it. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have two, please. Go ahead first.
Yeah, okay, you can go. No, please. So I have two questions. So Wendy's, is this the?
Not Wendy's,
it-
McDonald's?
No, Wendy's.
Oh,
The, had the fire suppression.
Oh,
release.
yes,
So
mhm.
is this the second time or third time that this has gone off? I thought it,
I don't recall if it was Wendy's. I know
Yeah.
these things do happen periodically. You know, a lot of times they happen in the wintertime when the pipes freeze, and they will usually, when they freeze, they discharge.
I'm pretty sure this is at least the second time. I just didn't know if there was a concern there or.
They repaired it. I guess there was some pressure issue with the system,
Right.
so it was taken care of.
Thank you. And the second question is on Sweet Ginger, who's been around for a long time, but and I know there was a
Suspect.
suspect illness and it panned out okay, I guess, but there was other violations. They seem to come up every once in a while, and I just get concerned about.
Well, we have a new food code. So what we're finding is, as we're going into the restaurants, is that they are not in compliance with these new regulations, and specifically having each employee fill out a food employee symptom reporting agreement. So that was missing. They didn't have protocol on how to handle a vomit and diarrhea cleanup. So I gave them some information. They took care of it, went back for reinspection, so.
So it was more, I'm not
It wasn't
minimizing it,
related.
it was more administrative.
Exactly, it wasn't related to the suspect illness
Yeah,
at all.
okay, great, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just had one question. What do we, I mean, life is life, but what do you make of just this bunching of these gastrointestinal consequences after
Well, I guess
6 to 12 hours of eating in relationship to the food establishments?
Right. You know, very rarely do I find a smoking gun, you
But you
know.
did. You did on, there was a restaurant, 3 customers came ill with abdominal cramps, loose stools, 9 hours after eating, chicken wings, 2 different sauces. Upon I reviewed the suspect illness complaint with the PIC. I conducted inspection, and it says violations were found, cited, and
Right,
corrected.
Right, so.
I've never seen that.
Well, not being there on that particular day, I don't know what happened, but when I went in and I saw the procedure, I was concerned about some contact, or I should say cross-contamination with raw product and cooked product. And this particular day, the person who called said that they were very busy and they were shorthanded. And so I addressed that with the person in charge, and I said, you know, I have some concerns that if you were shorthanded, that maybe there could have been some cross-contamination with this particular order. So we talked about changing some procedures, how they're going to be handling the food, and so, but again, I don't know if that was the cause.
Okay, because it wasn't, it was a smoking gun, but not the bullet.
There you go.
I'm sorry, my analogies are terrible, but they're pretty, yeah. Well, because I was wondering why you didn't cite them. It's because.
Well, I did cite them.
But you didn't find them. Did you find them?
No, what the protocol is, if we find
cite it,
violations, we
correct.
cite them, we order them to correct, and then we go back for reinspection. But you're right, generally speaking, we don't usually find violations specific to a suspect illness.
Lifetime Athletics, you know, we gave them a lot of leeway in a lot of things, and I was really disappointed to see that they didn't have what
As
they
I
should
was,
have
yeah.
had.
After,
I think if this happens again, they need to come before us.
Yes, and they understand that. They were issued a fine, and they were told that if this is going to be a continued problem, that we will bring them before the board.
Thank you very much, because we can revoke a permit if it continues.
Yes, yes, you can, with
And I
notice.
just think that, you know, they're a big company, we've worked with them, and I was very disappointed.
thanks.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Weiner, what was you said that was like late breaking news, the Lifetime Fitness? It wasn't in the report, was it? Did I miss it?
No,
No, the Lifetime, with all the swimming pool data,
Oh, that, okay, got it,
Yeah.
got it, okay.
you know, I was just surprised, it was, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very surprised.
So, and hopefully, we won't have any more problems, so we can move on. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff report for the health agent.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. A supervisory nurse. First, congratulations on an excellent program on the 14th, the Narcan and the overdose and Narcan program was outstanding. And we just signed a thank you note to the district attorney, Mary Ann Ryan, who graciously provided those people who took the program Narcan. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann Ryan.
Not really much to report. We do start Matter of Balance class September 10th, and that will go for 8 weeks every Tuesday. We have been doing and will continue to do Stop the Bleed training for DPW. I just did the Ice Palace, a few of their employees there that were presently now. There'll be more coming in the fall, so we'll be doing some more Stop the Bleed trainings over there. And we've had we had 8 cases of Lyme's. I can't express enough the importance of being protected, especially with fall coming, with the leaves falling, and they do tend to hide under the leaves, so we do need to stay protected. There is a tick and Lyme that Leahy and I both did that is on VCAT, so the public can see that presentation. And I can't express the importance of protecting yourselves and your children and your pets with that. And that's pretty much what I had. Any
Too bad they don't make human collars.
Any questions? I have one. Have we scheduled our flu clinic?
Yes.
When is it?
Saturday, November 2nd. And again, we'd like to stress that that is an EDS, emergency dispensing site drill, as well as the flu clinic for the town.
And will we have high dose for elders?
There should be some high dose that's coming in. We just don't know how much. We may not get all that we have ordered, either on time or maybe not at all. So we're not sure how many doses will come to us.
And pediatrics?
Same thing.
Same thing, we don't know.
Everything's extended out by 3 to 4 weeks, and we're slowly getting, them to say when we may or may not get those shipments in.
Gosh, I'm all about November 2nd that we should have everything.
I would hope so.
Yeah, oh, I would think so. I would hope by
It's-
October, first week of October.
You know, I worry about the second, I don't know if you know, Walgreens is already advertising to give flu vaccine. And so pediatrics, we don't know. And is it gonna be nasal or all, nasal or needle?
Nasal
Any-
and needle, yeah.
We're gonna have nasal?
We may not get all the nasal that we only ordered 40 doses of the nasal.
Okay.
We may get 10 to 15 of those.
Okay. But please, we ask you to come to our clinic, but if you do it, if you can't make our clinic or whatever, please get a flu shot. Any other questions?
I'm assuming we'll have updates to be able to provide the community as it gets closer on where we are.
Yeah, just to add to that, so we are going to be going to get a shipment of the flu zone in September. I believe it's 100 doses, and the high dose 40 doses. So we're gonna give the high dose out as we get it. So as soon as we get that, we'll start, giving that out to the seniors, and not wait for the November clinic. We'll give that out right away.
So at the November clinic, we will
We
just...
may or may not have some.
Have any?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we need to let the community know, because we had some disappointed people who waited for the high dose last year, and unfortunately, we ran out.
We will do that. If we don't have any available for the clinic, we'll put that in the PSA ahead of
I
time.
mean, we try our best every year to forecast what we'll need, and we order appropriately, and, I do, I'm a little biased, but I agree with the director. Once we get the high dose, in, we should be dispensing it to our elders. So,
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the supervising nurse report.
Second.
I have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. And last but not least, our
Not at
Director
all.
of Public Health,
Not
Susan
least in the,
Lamanello.
not in the least is she least.
Congratulations on the marriage of your daughter last week.
Thank you. Yeah, very exciting, thank you. So just some updates on the things that's going on. I wanted to make the board aware of 111 Middlesex Turnpike, which is the plaza where Wendy's is. We got a complaint about a very large puddle there that's been there for a really long time. So I went out, and was a really large, maybe 3 inches deep. There was like 20 geese in the puddle. I provided some pictures in my report. So I did write a nuisance letter to the management company and the owner to look at this problem and try to resolve it. So evidently, all of the runoff from the plaza goes to this drainage basin. It's a man-made basin, which is located on the property. And the basin fills up and overflows into the parking lot, consistently causing this large puddle there. So they currently have engineers who are looking at this, trying to resolve the problem, and here it is, Ely.
I didn't see the picture.
And they're going to let us know, but it's not going to be a quick fix, because they're gonna have to do some kind of redesign, engineering design, to try and solve the problem. And I'm not sure how they're gonna do that, but maybe putting in some kind of drainage system or something like that, or extending this basin or something, because evidently the basin is no longer working.
So do they have a certain time frame to,
So under the nuisance, I write the order letter for 30 days, but really it's 30 days to start working on the problem, especially for something like this, because this isn't gonna get resolved right away, because after they have the plans, they're gonna have to go, probably do a site plan, go to the planning board, and go through the whole process. So it could take them a while to kind of solve this issue.
Is there something that this could be sumped onto the property elsewhere, only because this is a huge body of standing water?
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's got geese, so I'm sure it has geese byproduct as well.
Yeah.
eggs? Does the,
Well, geese byproducts are
so,
not toxic.
yeah, well, I
It's
know.
not hazardous yet.
Fertilizer.
What was I gonna say? Do you feel like they're working with us and that they're eager to
Yes.
get the problem
Yeah,
fixed?
so the management company had to hire engineers and get them working on it, so, but they are in the process of doing that, so yeah, I think they are. If I feel like they're not moving along, I will have them come to the board to provide an update to the board and talk about where they're at.
Anything else? I just want to point out
Yes.
that Susan and I had a lengthy meeting with the town administrator. We talked about some collaboration among some of the town departments in certain areas where we could probably work a little bit better together. And I thought things went really well, and I can't say enough about Paul Sagarino, who listened and agreed with us that we could be working a little bit better, and other departments could be working a little better with us. So with that, I just wanted to point that out, that Susan and I have been very busy. With that,
One last thing, so just so the board knows, we are in talks with Northeastern about getting some student interns in, and they should be starting, I already signed the contract, beginning of September, so after Labor Day, and they'll be working with Chris on the Stop the Bleed program and, you know, other things that are going on, Matter of Balance and things like that.
thank you.
You just made me think of it when talking about the issue, the parking lot issue, and I don't know if Christine or, but the Cambridge Street, the Burlington Auto,
They'll be coming to the next meeting, so they were stalled, or they still were working on their plans, but we put them on the next meeting and requested that they come just to kind of provide an update to the board again, as far as where they're at.
great, thank you.
Anything else? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Is there any other discussion? Dr. Salzman, would you like to end with your usual?
As somebody who has been riding the T lately, I'm just reminded the importance of hand washing, especially as the weather is changing and we're going to be inside a little bit more. So be safe and take care of yourselves.
Be safe, everybody. Have a good holiday weekend.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
All right.
Good night, everybody.